You're tuned in to a breaking story that merges the worlds of politics, comedy, and law in a way that's as shocking as it is intriguing. It all begins with one seemingly harmless joke at the Grammys, delivered by none other than Trevor Noah, a comedian known for his sharp wit and fearless commentary on public figures. The joke, while lighthearted, targeted a figure who has a long history of legal battles, political controversies, and an undeniable presence in the media, former President Donald J. Trump. During the award for Song of the Year, Trevor Noah delivered a line that immediately caught the attention of viewers, and, predictably, the former president himself. He said, "That is a Grammy every artist wants, almost as much as Trump wants Greenland," which makes sense because Epstein's island is gone. He needs a new one to hang out with Bill Clinton. It was, on the surface, a humorous observation, a witty comparison blending pop culture, geopolitics, and the long-standing Epstein narrative. However, in the world of Trump, humor is often treated as provocation, and provocation as grounds for legal action. Within hours of the joke airing, Donald Trump took to social media to issue a statement that made headlines around the country. He described the Grammys as virtually unwatchable and criticized both the network CBS and the host, Trevor Noah. The statement escalated quickly from general criticism to an explicit threat of legal action. Trump claimed that Noah's joke was not only incorrect but defamatory, and he vowed to send his lawyers after Noah for plenty of money. The threat was pointed, personal, and unmistakably public. This raises the first question. Could a defamation lawsuit even succeed under these circumstances? To answer that, it helps to break down what a defamation claim entails, especially when the target is a public figure like Donald Trump. In the United States, defamation has 5 key elements. First, a false statement must be made. Second, it must be about the person claiming defamation. Third, it must be published or shared with others. Fourth, the speaker must have acted with actual malice. And finally, the claimant must have suffered damages as a result of the statement. Here's the twist. Trevor Noah's joke, while referencing Trump in connection with Greenland and Epstein Island, did not explicitly accuse Trump of any criminal or unethical behavior. Instead, it was satirical, an inference left for the audience to interpret. In legal terms, satire and comedy are generally protected forms of speech under the First Amendment. This protection is particularly robust when the subject is a public figure. Courts have consistently ruled that humor, parody, and exaggeration are not the same as factual claims, making the bar for a successful defamation suit extraordinarily high. Even if Trump were to claim that the joke was damaging to his reputation, there are additional hurdles. As a public figure, he must prove that Noah acted with actual malice. That is, that the comedian knowingly made false statements or acted with reckless disregard for the truth. Given the satirical context, establishing actual malice would be challenging at best. Furthermore, the element of damages is murky. Can the reputation of a man whose public controversies and legal entanglements are widely known really be harmed by a joke? And even if Trump argues financial loss, proving that a single comedic comment caused measurable monetary damage would be difficult. Adding another layer of complexity, there's the history of Trump's legal behavior to consider. He has a well-documented pattern of initiating lawsuits, sometimes aggressively, sometimes frivolously, against opponents, journalists, and entertainers alike. From past cases against political rivals to high-profile legal disputes involving media outlets, Trump's record shows a willingness to use litigation as both a weapon and a spectacle. This history, while not legally binding as precedent, could influence the atmosphere in which a court evaluates any potential lawsuit against Noah. Lawyers might argue that this behavior demonstrates a tendency toward vexatious legal actions, further complicating the case. In practical terms, the initial public threat may serve more as intimidation than as a genuine legal strategy. Threatening to sue a high-profile comedian, especially in the public eye, can generate headlines, rally supporters, and potentially discourage other entertainers from making jokes. Yet the actual mechanics of filing a defamation lawsuit are far more involved. The process of discovery alone would expose Trump to rigorous scrutiny. Discovery aroused Noah's legal team to submit written questions under oath, demand documents, and even require Trump to sit for a deposition. Given past public performances and depositions, this could be political and legally perilous, and any misstep could become fodder for further media coverage. Meanwhile, the question of whether CBS, as the network that aired the joke, could be included in a lawsuit intrudes further uncertainty. While a plaintiff might attempt to bring in a media outlet to expand liability or pursue financial leverage, doing so adds complexity. CBS has historically demonstrated a willingness to settle disputes, but the network's involvement could also strengthen Noah's defense by framing the joke as part of a broadcast protected under artistic expression and free speech principles. Even in scenarios where a lawsuit is filed, it's unlikely that the legal claim would proceed smoothly for the plaintiff. Courts recognize comedy as a legitimate form of commentary, and judges are generally reluctant to grant damages based on jokes about public figures, unless there is undeniable proof of actual harm and malicious intent. The combination of high legal thresholds, protected speech, and the potential exposure of Trump's own actions makes a favorable outcome for the former president difficult to achieve. In essence, what we are witnessing is a collision of politics, law, and entertainment. A joke at the Grammys has escalated into a potential legal battle that could unfold in courtrooms, social media platforms, and news cycles simultaneously. The stakes are as much about public perception as they are about legal precedent. For Trump, the threat
threat of a lawsuit serves multiple purposes, signaling strength to supporters, attempting to control media narratives, and potentially intimidating other entertainers. Yet the satirical nature of the original joke, combined with robust First Amendment protections, creates a high probability that any lawsuit would face significant hurdles. As the story continues to develop, viewers are left with a compelling legal drama unfolding in real time. Every statement, every public threat, and every strategic maneuver by the parties involved contributes to an evolving narrative that is part courtroom intrigue, part celebrity spectacle, and part political theater. For audiences watching closely, the interplay between law and comedy becomes a fascinating case study in how humor can challenge authority, how public figures respond under scrutiny, and how legal protections interact with cultural commentary.
As the legal drama continues to unfold, it becomes increasingly clear that the situation between Donald Trump and Trevor Noah is not just about a joke at the Grammys. It's about the history, patterns, and consequences of legal threats from one of America's most controversial figures. To fully understand the stakes, we need to examine Trump's past approach to lawsuits, especially those targeting comedians, media personalities, and public critics. Trump has long been known for using litigation as a tool for both retribution and leverage, from high-profile cases against political opponents to smaller disputes with journalists. There is a pattern of aggressive legal posturing, often accompanied by media statements intended to sway public perception. One notable example includes lawsuits against figures like Hillary Clinton, where cases were eventually dismissed, sometimes with financial penalties imposed on Trump and his legal team for pursuing claims deemed frivolous or in bad faith. These incidents highlight a recurring theme. While Trump's lawsuits may generate headlines, the legal foundation for success is often shaky. This historical context matters when considering any potential defamation claim against Trevor Noah. In theory, if a lawsuit was filed without sufficient evidence or legal merit, Noah could counter the action. A countersuit could include claims for attorney's fees, or even damages if the court deems the original filing frivolous. While U.S. law does not automatically penalize plaintiffs for failed cases, strategic counterclaims can serve as both deterrent and compensation. Given Trump's history of aggressive litigation, legal experts suggest that Noah's team would be well prepared to defend vigorously and even leverage Trump's prior patterns to strengthen their position. Moving beyond historical context, let's dive into the mechanics of what such a lawsuit would entail. In the U.S., any defamation claim must pass several rigorous thresholds. Beyond proving a false statement and publication, the plaintiff must establish that the speaker acted with actual malice, particularly when the subject is a public figure. This high standard protects the freedom of expression, especially for journalists, commentators, and comedians. In Noah's case, the joke itself was satirical and part of a televised award ceremony, a context that courts routinely recognize as protected speech. The satirical nature of the content makes it extremely difficult for any defamation claim to succeed. One of the most compelling aspects of this unfolding story is the discovery process that would follow a formal lawsuit. Discovery is the stage in which both parties exchange information, documents, and interrogatories under oath. For Trump, this could be a double-edged sword. Past depositions and public statements indicate that Trump has sometimes struggled under cross-examination or formal questioning. In a defamation case, Noah's legal team could exploit these vulnerabilities to challenge the credibility, intent, and factual claims of the plaintiff. Deposition testimony, combined with documentary evidence, could significantly weaken any argument that the joke caused real harm. Additionally, the inclusion of CBS in the potential lawsuit adds another layer of complexity. Networks are often targeted in media-related cases because they have deep pockets and are perceived as responsible for content aired on their platforms. However, including a major network also strengthens the defense, as broadcasters can argue that the joke was part of a protected artistic and journalistic expression. CBS's involvement could therefore shift some of the legal risk away from Noah, while creating additional procedural hurdles for Trump. From a strategic perspective, the potential lawsuit also carries reputational risks for Trump. The very act of filing against a comedian for a satirical joke could reinforce narratives about thin skin and sensitivity to criticism. Public perception is a powerful force in cases involving prominent figures, and the combination of media scrutiny, social commentary, and public opinion can influence the broader context in which the legal battle unfolds. In other words, the act of suing might generate as much controversy as the original joke itself. Another critical angle involves financial considerations. To succeed in a defamation case, a plaintiff must demonstrate measurable damages, either reputational or monetary. In the context of a figure like Trump, whose financial empire is vast and whose public reputation is already heavily scrutinized, proving substantial harm is a challenging proposition. Analysts note that even if Trump were to argue a loss of business or endorsements, isolating the impact of a single joke amidst the broader public discourse would be exceedingly difficult. Looking at potential outcomes, several scenarios emerge. If a lawsuit is filed, it could be dismissed outright due to lack of merit. Alternatively, it could proceed through pretrial motions and discovery, exposing both parties to intensive scrutiny. Either way, the process is likely to generate significant media coverage, with each development feeding into public debate about free speech, satire, and accountability for public figures. For Trevor Noah, the case could serve as both a defensive maneuver and a public relations opportunity, highlighting the protective power of comedic expression under the First Amendment. It's also important to consider the timing and context.
The joke aired during a high-profile event, the Grammys, ensuring immediate attention from millions of viewers. In the social media era, every comment, post, or reaction can amplify the situation exponentially. Trump's public threats, issued through online platforms, served to escalate the drama while simultaneously alerting both supporters and critics. For legal experts, this underscores the challenge of distinguishing genuine legal action from performative threats designed to dominate the news cycle. While speculation abounds, one thing remains clear. The interplay between humor, law, and public figures creates a highly dynamic environment. Trevor Noah's joke may have been brief, but its ripple effects touch on constitutional protections, litigation strategy, media responsibility, and public perception. The narrative is as much about who is protected by the law as it is about who wields influence in shaping public discourse. Each moment, from the initial joke to the potential court filings, illustrates the complex intersection of satire and power in modern society. Finally, the broader lesson from this scenario extends beyond a single joke or lawsuit. It highlights the importance of context, the strength of legal protections for commentary, and the unpredictable consequences when public figures confront criticism through legal means. As this story continues to develop, audiences are watching closely, not only for the legal outcome, but also for the cultural statement it makes about accountability, free expression, and the limits of power. For now, viewers are left with anticipation and questions. Will Trump proceed with the lawsuit? Will Trevor Noah counterclaim? How will CBS respond? And ultimately, what does this episode say about the balance between celebrity, comedy, and the law in America? These unanswered questions ensure that the story will remain a topic of discussion across newsrooms, social media, and living rooms alike, keeping public attention riveted for weeks to come. In conclusion, what started as a single line of comedic observation has evolved into a multifaceted legal drama. It's a story that merges satire, law, and politics, creating tension and intrigue at every turn. As both parties navigate the potential lawsuit, the world watches, not just for the legal outcome, but for the lessons it imparts about power, protection, and the enduring importance of free expression in a democratic society.